Okay, welcome everybody. It's a pleasure for me and for ASSITEJ Italy to introduce this meeting. This is the fifth appointment realized by ASSITEJ Italy on digital practices, but is the first one international. At the beginning of the lockdown, ASSITEJ Italy opened a discussion about the TYA and the artistic, cultural, and social role, but also which kind of tools we have and we need to give our contribution to overcome this period, but also to manage this period. So a focus group started to investigate the digital practices for young audience. The intention, the goal was to know, share tools, methods, research, a sort of toolbox to fill together. We proposed the 4 national webinar, and now the 5th open our window on the international practices. We decide in this occasion to connect together 2 paths, toolbox, but also chain reaction. Chain reaction is an international project that the most part of you knows very well, and that during this year proposed many opportunities of panel discussions, meeting, encounters, focused on festival and on networking around the world. Cristina Cazzola is one of the creators of both projects. So Cristina, you know, she is well known, so she doesn't need presentation. And I give her the screen. I don't know what to say, and I give her the screen. And Cristina, it's your time if you want to introduce our guest.
Thank you, Linda. See, the floor, we don't have any floor, we have a screen, so the floor is mine. So very happy to have you all here. Yeah, chain reaction was a process that we started in the first wave of the COVID in April, with those meetings that have been really interesting because have been opening up our mind to the possibility and to how to find solutions about how to start again. We were in which we were speaking about when we will go back to normality. So we were speaking in that way. Maybe this is our normality. I will not open this door, but the big question we were asking ourselves is about the transformation of festivals. A lot of festivals, to go back to normality or to survive, let's say, have been dealing with the digital space and the digital shift and digital approach. So this is why today we decided to have this last meeting, putting together the chain reaction, reflections, and research and process together with the two methods about digital that we had at the national level. At national level, we had a lot of really amazing meeting and information. One thing that we decided was that we didn't want to have a list of practices, but we wanted really to collect tools and an approach about methodology and how this space can change our everything, let's say. So I will let the floor to our colleague Carlo Presotto that have been together with us in all the 4 meetings, and that is renowned because of his a professor and also a director and an actor. So so today he's performing as the digital competent director. His Carter is speaking, he can speak a really good English, but the Carter we decided to give him, he's just a little bit more Italian style. So thank you, Carlo, and thanks to Elisa that worked worked together with him to set this, that we wanted to be kind of keywords through the process that we had in the previous fourth meeting. One thing that is really important and I would love to underline is that because this is connected also with the digital shift, is that this digital shift and the COVID brought us a level of cooperation inside ASSITEJ Italia and the groups of work that we have been launching through all this complex time and period, and the group of tool and methods have been a really fantastic group, all women, sorry, and we have been cooperating fantastically. So all what Carlo will say is the result of a great work that we have been doing together. That of course is not finished, but now it's a kind of the fifth one step. So Elisa was together with Carlo, but all my colleagues, Caterina, Alessandra, Carlotta, Tatiana, Linda, of course, who's there, I'm missing. I hope, yeah, Marina, and I think I named all of us. So thank you.
Thank you, Cristina. I will give you only 7 words, seven tools about our very rich meeting. But our meetings started something. I tried to say something to bring to the surface some insights, but it is an open process, and this is very important. My 7 words will be play and to play, really. Our core business is to play. Silence, languages, engagement, present, liveness, and transmediality. The 2 last words are some difficult for me, but I will try to explain, to say something about. And I start with play. To play. The first and perhaps the most important word that emerges from our conversations. It is the word play and the verb to play. Play is a founding dimension of our children's theater, really. But playing, now many artists have begun to explore the possibilities of building long-distance relationship with children. Playing with children to tackle the pandemic. And presenting speechless micro shows outside the classroom window, for example, or using the phone to tell stories, or recording a song a day and sending it by social media, and inviting spectators to sing it again, or playing with electronic image, computer, video games themselves, developing forms of a figure theater that can fly online. The act of playing with the tools made available by digital technologies is one of the greatest acquisitions of this period of experimentation for some and resumption and upgrade for others. This about play. The second word is silence. The word silence has been mentioned several times during our meetings. Since the perception of it face-to-face with children in the theater is profoundly different from the perception of silence for the child via device. The silence that is generated in the theater is generative. I don't know if it is understanding. Generative. It is the threshold of a creative abyss. The point where something is generated, something new. It is not an empty silence. It is an access point. On the contrary, the silence that arises when we relate to our audience via PC is marked and empty, lack. We wondered that what kind of approach could be taken to fill this void. We can also detect the word silence as a lack of actual feedback after watching a show or participating in a workshop. You know, it's not easy, in fact, to have a final return on the experience as it normally happens live. Difference between silence in an audience and silence in my room when I'm in front of my PC during a chat is a very touchable difference. I feel it with my body first. Third word, languages updating. The challenge we are facing today due to this pandemic has taken us away from our comfort zone, you know, from doing things guided by a basic routine. That inevitably is a part of the management of an organization. And this is true even for those organizations involved in performing art, which have deadlines, budget needs, like any other organization. The total stop of daily activity has generated discouragement and resignation, but also has given us the time to research and return to address the issue of a spectator child who today is no longer what it was before the pandemic. We can truly say that we are in a historical moment, yeah. Thank you. The know-how acquired on the strengthened in this period will remain indelible in our production processes. We went back to listening to our spectator child, looking for answer on how to involve him, where to look for him, with what tools to amaze him and to capture his attention. And we have abandoned self-referentiality. Now let's make sure that these skills acquired from scratch or strengthened can be a different approach on to training and to prepare new ways of doing research. Fourth, I will run public engagement. The audiovisual image presents itself to the child, but also to the adult, as a window on a world. A world that interacts with the audience body through sounds and images, but not through smells, tastes, and I can touch it. I can't specialize myself in relation with other volumes. The child doesn't feel completely an actor in that world. He unconsciously perceives a lack, and he responds to this lack, to this perceptive need, becoming an author, generating his own reality behind the screen. The real question remains the one that founds the encounter at the theater. What am I carrying and offering you? What do I get from you? What happens between us through this exchange? How does this secret between us can transform us? I think it's very hard to answer these questions, because now the spectator is like a prosumer who wants to be part of the event. This is a simple concept to understand for the adults, but it's now up to us who deal with theater for the new generation to find the right way to create interplay with our spectators. We need to think not only about storytelling, but now we have to think about story doing. The fifth, focusing the present. Really, we need to focus the present to ask ourselves what kind of benefit our audience can have in using technological devices to enjoy artistic contact. We also have to ask ourselves whether we are willing to pursue the novelty of using innovative technology. because it's a novelty, but it's important to working in the short term before the expiration of this novelty. Through the device, we build a specific type of interaction with the public, and our mission must be clear when we experience and seek an interaction through a specific device, through a platform, through a social network. We must ask ourselves, what are we doing in the present? 6, liveness. This is a new word for me. A new word we have learned to live with, liveness. More than a word is an open question. What makes a performance alive? When there is no simultaneous presence of actor and spectator in the same place, it is enough that the action takes place at the same time. Are important those minimal margins that will be corrected in a reproduced version, or must be there some form of feedback perceptible by the actor, capable of affecting his performance. Live recording, live broadcasting, but also the simultaneous release in different countries of an episode of a television series expand the concept of a relationship, of life, of performance. More generally, in computing studying about artificial intelligence, there is an interesting difference between liveness property and safety property. Liveness property states that something good will eventually occur, contrasting a safety property which states that something bad does not occur. It's useful for us to put ourselves in this critical condition, in a state of liveness, experimenting, researching, making mistakes, hoping that sometimes something good will occur. It's hard work to do. And the last word is transmediality. Yeah, my brain is moving a lot. A term to describe a phenomena which are non-media specific, meaning not connected to a specific medium, and can therefore be realized in a large number of different media, such as literature, art, film, music. Transmediality is an expanded communication on different media in ways adapted to that specific medium. The narrative form. When I change media, my narrative changes. I can reproduce theater through Zoom. I'm creating something new. The theater is privileged place where the various means of communication are exploited and where those who enjoy it are themselves a part of the narration. Being able to exploit the technological mediums in a performative act that has roots in the live show, but which can choose to move in parallel digital form, amplifies the perspectives of the research, of the doing, makes the spectator's participation more active, and helps to develop a new contemporary critical sense. From the on life to the on liveness. My 7 words were play, silence, languages, engagement, present, liveness, and transmediality. I thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Carlo. It was really sharp and really clear for us, and thank you for challenging you in English. That was not that easy, because we know that to express ourselves in a language that is not our one and try to fit in complex concept is not the easiest thing to be done. So I will go on challenging myself in a language that is not my one. Me too. This was the journey that we have been making during these past months. Those words were really our tools to look at this scene, digital scene that is showing in front of our eyes and our sense that are so limited by the digital approach. But also we have been exploring a lot of innovative practices and the work of a lot of colleagues that have been challenging themselves, finding new solutions in this digital space. The first guest that we invited, and I will thank to be together with us, is bringing for, of course, our point of view, and this meeting is not the pretension to be exhaustive at any level, but just we hope to be inspiring and to create a dialogue, a better dialogue to improve our competencies and the new future. The word is alliances. And I will let the floor directly to Van Looy from Zonzo Company, asking which alliances and which impact on your audience you have experienced, and how this Big Band TV has an impact on the festival, because Big Band was also a festival, now a TV. So tell us about this story and adventure. Thank you, Wouter.
Hello, people on my screen. Yes, where should I start? In fact, Big Bang TV, I'm going to speak about that, but it has nothing to do with the pandemic situation, actually. The idea exists for about 10 years. And for the moment, yeah, it's going all a little bit fast forward, of course, caused by the situation. So I'm going to speak a bit about these ideas, but also about the challenges of our partners. Big Bang Festival is taking place in 20 cities, and there are many partners who would like to reach their audience like we all want to do, and questioning themselves, how can we do this? Because we cannot invite them in the theater. We need to reach them online. What are the good practices? What are the challenges? I'm going to speak a little bit about our festival in Canada with the National Arts Centre in Ottawa, which I think is a good example of what could work and what is more difficult for the audiences. Of course, everything was inspired by many discussions we had by specialists. I see Davide Venturini sitting there on my screen as well. Hello, Davide. Yeah. So it's so all these kind of people experimenting with formats and also digital practices are really inspiring. So also for the festival in Ottawa, in Canada, we had a lot of discussions, meetings with people, seeing what we could do. Because of course, the technical means are important to see what we can do. For us, the Big Bang Festival, it's a lot about interaction. It's about involvement. It's about contact with our audience. And of course, with the screens, there's a big challenge in that way. So we try to develop a lot of strategies to reach our audience. And the first thing we did was to send out a kit, something physical to the audience, so everyone could subscribe. And in no time, we had like 1,000 subscriptions from children who want to have the kit. And in the kit, there was just a little toolbox with manuals, little buttons, information, but also drawings they could make, like we normally do in the festival, where the children are invited to create together with us. So this is the first thing. The audience, they received something. It was not just something there to open the screen. No, there was something physical in their home, in their space, which opened the door to the festival, which I think is important. Next to that, there was a live programming with a lot of things they could just watch on the screen, all fine, but I had the feeling it's missing possibilities. We all know that to reach the audience just by clicking a button on your screen and something starts to play, it's not much more than a kind of a TV experience. So the best practices in our festival were exactly the live programming, where there was a kind of a real feeling of interaction. A few proposals, a few projects I would like to mention here is there was a possibility to have a one-on-one meeting with a musician. So you could subscribe for a meeting, and this musician was specifically playing for you. So you had really the feeling something here and now was happening between you and the musicians. There was also the Big Bang Radio from the ambassadors. Each festival works with children who are like the reporters of the festival, and they created their own radio which you could listen to. But then for me, the big hit and the revelation of the online festival was the robot party. I enjoyed the most the robot party. I don't know if anyone could was in the robot party with me.
Can you please tell something about that? Because I think that we are curious about the robot party. I wasn't in, and I see my colleagues like shaking hands. So please, just quickly.
I will tell you about the robot party. Well, the robot party is an idea from Kid Koala, who is a DJ, American DJ, and the audience was you had to subscribe for the party. So not that, yeah, I don't know how many people could participate at once, but it was limited. And
I think around 600, by the way.
600?
Yeah,
wow,
at the
that's
same
a lot.
time.
We had people coming to the party from all over the world. So they're from the UK, several cities in Europe, but also Canada, United States, and so on. What happened was that you got an invitation to make your own robot costume outfit. And when the session started, you could see on the screen all over the world parents with their children creating robot outfits. And at a certain moment, there was a kind of a countdown to the beginning of the party. By then, your robot costume had to be ready, and the DJ started to play. But what was nice, because you could see all these people doing the same as what you were doing live, in you were sharing the same moment. And sometimes you could see you were highlighted. So the camera was zooming in, you got the full screen, and the entire world could see you creating your costume. But later on, when the party started, they could see you dancing. So you were really dancing. There were two dancers as well, dancing live. So you had really a feeling of a live experience from all these people all over the world, dressed in crazy robot costumes and dancing on beautiful music by Kid Koala. So for me, this was kind of this experience of doing something live together, here and now. Sharing this experience is really very important. That for me was the best, the main experience out of our first online edition. Okay, I'm going to speak a bit about Big Bang TV, very short. There's for a long time, we feel like a big need and also a big gap between what is presented to children by the media and what we present to them in our theaters, in our concert halls, and in musea. So we started with this idea with the Big Bang partners to create an online channel or a TV channel where we could present our work on this channel. Not by live streaming, but by translating our ideas, our philosophy behind productions into specific media formats. From there, we started a lot of discussions with our media partners, but also with our national TV channel, which is called CATENA. And a few days ago, we had a very interesting meeting with them where we discussed the possibilities of working together And I told them about the meeting we had with our big bang partners, where they had to bring all their or to present to the other members of the network the most popular TV programs for children. And actually, they all looked like commercials. And I discussed this with our national TV channel and said, yes, but we are so scared that we will lose our audience because they will zap away. So this kind of media, they are so much dominated by the stress of being zapped away that they create more like commercial looking TV programs. So they are scared from everything which we try to do on our stages, to work with silence, sometimes with slowness, with creativity. So everything which is valuable for us, they are avoiding. And so this we came to a very nice discussion on how to solve this. I don't know if Big Bang TV will solve this problem, because there's of course, first we need to create this kind of platform. So we are working on this platform together with many partners. Also, Johan, who is speaking later on, is involved in these discussions to see how we can create a very strong online stage to present the content we would like to present to our audience. And it can be a stage in Flanders, but it can go to Shanghai and Ottawa and Italy. So it's an online stage. So we have a lot of meetings these days with partners who would like to join. So if anyone would like to join this idea,
I definitely want to join you.
Okay,
I'm signing up.
For
Italy.
Let's have a meeting as soon as possible. So yeah, I think there is such we all together feel such a common need to create better projects, digital projects for young audiences, that we need to share this platform. So that's the next challenge. And the most important thing is that there is a need to create content, because what we do on stage, you cannot directly translate it to a screen. The screen is another medium. It's been said before, but so that's what we are doing now as well, to create a specific production house to create content which is related to the philosophy of the art organizations for children, but can work on the screen as well. So that's what we are working on. We use the opportunity from a lot of cancelled shows and festivals to invest our budget in 1 month of recordings. So we are working on a first series. The 2 first episodes of Noisy Neighbors, it's called. This were launched at our festival in Ottawa. And we are editing the 3 more for the moment. So maybe it will be a track we can follow for the next years. Maybe we'll find some other formats. We are also working on a documentary now together with our national TV, which is really totally linked to what we developed before for the stage. But it has to be translated to a new way of creativity, a new way of working. The screen is not a stage. Thank you.
Thank you for remembering us that the screen is not the stage. I think that we all do agree about the fact that we need to translate. This is one of the important keywords, and also transformation is interesting. We were speaking before opening, let's say, the room to all of us about the need of sustainability or survival strategies, and we were speaking about the fact that in this moment that theater are closed, we are all producing, and there will be a lot of show that will need to be shown, and we don't know where, because if we don't open, I think that we are all facing the same problem. That means that we will have between one wave and the other, they open theater for 1 week or 2 weeks or 1 month, and so we have like thousands of festivals, and the flash this that I started calling the flash mob programming. I mean, you need to program in 1 week because next week it's open and then it's closed. So it's a kind of flash mob programming. But the interesting thing that is connected with this digital space we are exploring is the transformation. I mean, I'm more positive to look at the actors and artists that transform themselves to be able to produce something for another medium than closing the door and producing to maybe one day propose their shows. So this is somehow the transformation that can be interesting. You were speaking also about the dialogue. This is another important keyword. And the fact that, and another thing that is for me relevant in this research is the fact that you were already researching on this field. That is something that is the connection with the pioneering approach that Copper Gitarai had in this digital space. And also the fact that you have been speaking or calling and speaking about the Davide Venturini and what a lot of artists were already doing before in this digital space. That doesn't mean that those who launched themselves in this adventure now only because of the pandemic are doing less interesting things. I am in this group, for example, and I was completely against that before. But this is interesting for me to make a reflection on the importance of the space of the research. It puts the light again on the fact that in any situation, if you invest in research, you will have solutions that will help you in any emergency plan. So I will stop talking and I will give the floor to Johan from Copper Gitarai that started a Media Lab research process 10 years ago and now is dealing with a digital festival. But please, Johan.
Thank you. Thank you. I liked a lot. Thank you. Hi, everyone. I liked a lot what Wouter was saying about sharing here and now live. I think this is a very important entrance, that not seeing this, everything what's happening in this digital world, not seeing this as something that's not happening live, because it's exactly this. It's about live. I take you back in 30 seconds, just in 1994, after 20 years of fighting, our founder, Eva Bal, finally found a place, an old cuppa factory in Ghent. And the first weekend we opened, there was someone living in the neighborhood coming in. He opened the door and he said, you know what? If you don't have a fucking pool, then you won't have anyone in the space. You should play billiard. You have to have something. He joined us and he said, like, what he was literally saying is, fuck theater. It's in your head. Be aware of, if you come to this neighborhood, be aware what's really needed. 20 years later, when I became artistic director, I was in a space with an 11-year-old boy, and after 2 days after becoming the artistic director, he said, like, Johan, if you don't make video clips here, you're out. You're fucking old already now, really, you're out. I remember those 2 moments, and they were the moments of fear. We are working a lot to make live theater through improvisation for years and beautiful performances, and we want to connect. And someone comes in and just gives you everything what you don't want, fear. And it took myself and it took the house 35 years to understand that's exactly the goal of everything. It's about the fear. Because the fear is opening the unknown. The fear is opening what we don't know yet. So what we did with the whole team, we all came together and we were rethinking everything what we did before. And we were saying, like, what's your biggest fear? Yeah, I can't work with computers. What's your biggest fear? Yeah, but if we send something, and if we made a list of the biggest fears, it exactly was something that we felt that maybe contemporary theater could mean. It was exactly similar. So we tried to find a way to embrace this and to say, let's build it, let's build something around it, let's make it happen and take it in our team. And we invest something, what was called like the media table. We didn't know anything about it. The only thing that we knew is we have to invest in this to make something which is a bit digital, a bit out there, virtual, blah, blah, blah. And the more we didn't know what it meant, the more we thought maybe we should open the door, let them in, and get started to think about it. Through the years, we saw that it was worth doing it. The first thing we did was we had like a media table. Certainly, we could connect with the 30 countries we are playing through the years everywhere in the world. In one way, we could directly connect with the children and youngsters instantly. In fact, if you think about it, how old-fashioned is this? We create a product. So you have like a moment of 2 months of creating. Then you have like a moment of 2 months of performing. You already prepared with 2 years in advance, which means that after 2 years of preparing, 2 months of creating, 2 months of touring, then suddenly you ask teachers and children, do you have any connection with the content? You make everything around it for the schools and you make something around it. Why not having this in the first day? Why not have something content-wise directly? If I lost my father and a little boy lost his father, and there's a connection in talk, why can't I embrace that thought and bring it in everything what we do now to make this a part of participation in creation? Which form can do this? Everything what we are afraid of, this whole virtual world, this digitalization, this strange thing of computers we are dealing with each day. This is possible. This is really possible. By experimenting with this, so we invested in a media table, did a lot of projects, and each time again we were confronted with the fact, like on the moment you think we slowly start to get grip on it, the more we said like, no, we don't get a grip on it. And that's why it's interesting. I'll give you just one example. I made a production with Cap Public from Montreal, and we wanted to make a little movie together with the dancers, etc., etc. We had like a few youngsters from the Rabotte, from a specific neighborhood here in Ghent. We invited them to make with a professional cineast. We wanted to film in an afternoon three little parts, 3 little scenes for the movie, 4 in the theater play. The little boy, Evgenia, asked like, can I bring a little friend? We said, yeah, of course you can bring a little friend. While we were recording the movie, where we were recording the 3 scenes, the little friend was with his iPhone, just grabbing and just taking pictures, taking little movies. At the end of the day, he had like 49 different scenes. He had made an example of it. So he made pictures of it. He made it to a little movie. He made like comments on it. He put it on the net. And on the same evening, he had 89 reactions on it. And we were thinking like, who the hell are we to think that cultural participation for children and young ones is owned by just by us thinking in how does this work? Well, you have the creation of someone who's like creating this thing. You have like the reaction of like similar group of children, youngsters reacting on this. This is gold. So more and more we start to understand like it's not about should we do it. It's about how we do it. And how we try to do it through the years, it's like to, again, to build on the sphere. If you don't understand it, invest in it. We had like, we have like some young artists here in the house, and for example, Ilya, my lovely colleague, he is very keen on everything what's due to the digital work. And through those 10 years, we already had like, for example, 3 festival digitals, which means like 3 festivals only related to the work of digital work, interaction, participation, everything what's in relation with this digital focus. The beauty of it is that the more and more you invest in it, the more and more you think we don't know it. People love it, they adore it, and meanwhile, you get blocked by, because you get confident, I don't know it. One of the examples, for example, we had a virtual reflection of the house itself. They were like Nerd Lab, they were working with us, and they made kind of a virtual world of the foyer of the theater house. Just trying to get in this virtual world, I was like standing and I couldn't even enter the door because there was a little bench there and I couldn't even enter. But the real question was, it's not about do you get in, it's about you doing it, because the necessity of doing it now is in relation with all those youngsters, all those children who are living in this world where they're creating anyhow their personality in relation with their own avatars. And if you don't embrace this thought of including this, you're just missing the point of literally who they are. Not because it's kind of a new technology, it's because it's a very old basic thing. It's about the authenticity of respecting who they are in their time, with their means, to make the link with Carlo, with their language. And if we don't invest enough altogether in the challenge of engaging them to be partner in this, then probably we could also end up somehow in a closed box in our heads, not reflecting in the essence of what we really try to do. And that's why if we invest in it, we really make the relation towards the here and now, on a live scene, on a moment where we feel like it's now and never that it should happen. Also on the political way, because there's also something happening in our society, this whole way where you feel nothing is possible anymore. Why are they all escaping somehow? Why are they all going to another phase where they have to find some avatars for themselves? We think like we're getting in this whole world of fake news, for example, because there is not any reflection where we see them as partners in the challenge of creating their own worlds. So if we avoid to make this connection, we probably could avoid also to social and politically to come to a point where we have lost control. So it's not only about theater, it's also about the way of how you present yourself in the social political context these days, and that they are like owner of their own future. And that's why, for example, out of the experience of co-operative at least, we should at least see it as a part of the core business when you work for children and youngsters to embrace this whole idea. I think I talked too much, at least Tina. I got 7 minutes or 8 minutes, 10 minutes.
No, it's fine.
I'm in a little corner there now. That's why I'm looking a bit.
Don't worry, we are following you. Just go ahead if you need.
I think there's also another thing that it's also about failure. Like we are so afraid to make mistakes and to get confronted with failure. I think it's like the perfection in itself as an artistic form, or at least to create something which is finalized in something you can share to an audience. I think these days, it's already clear that the participation of trying to find together kind of what the result can be is much more interesting. It's about inclusion. It's about making connections with a huge diversity of people. And it's not only about what you had in the beginning in your mind as a potential result and showing this result. The result is in the process of all those steps. And afterwards you say, of course, we are ending up maybe with a production, maybe with a movie, maybe with a festival, maybe with this. But it's the process in between who shows the value of how you connected with all those people, intergenerational, how you came to that point. And therefore we embrace the thought to make this togetherness like also in an international field. I think.
Yes, this is it can look like a more philosophical discussion than a witness about a concrete practice. But I was interested, for me it was interesting to share this reflection that I perceived that was behind the digital festival. And when I listened to the story that Johan told me about how they were in this kind of approach, it was really interesting for me, because I have always, the past, let's say the past 5 years, when I was sitting as a spectator in international festival, national festival, as a spectator in a season, looking at a show for a theater show for young audience, mostly, but also theater show, frequently in my brain, I had this word, blah, 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 as kind of a warning, with a warning, that was dinosaurs. I was feeling a dinosaurs. I was feeling that people on stage were dinosaurs compared with the contemporary dialogue and the contemporary way of thinking of the new generation, because of course, we frequent youngsters because we work with them, for them. And I am from 6 years in a process with teenagers. And when I was going to theater together with them, and I was like in a Bluetooth connection with their brain, and I can read dinosaurs. What is that? What are they doing? They are making as if. What is that, to make as if? So it's kind of all this kind of discussion in my brain between me and myself. So when Johan told me about his story and how they are approaching this digital space, this so-called digital space, for me it was clear that to translate this translation we were speaking about when Wouter was telling about the translation of this content from one media to another. What we need, and what this situation is putting the light on, is that we need another translation, that is a transformation of the opera, that is passing from a status of something that is there, the opera as itself, to something that is a process that is relevant because of his power to create other connection, and to create connection and to stimulate and generate connection, that for me is really connected with the digital space, because the digital space is the one that created, and what we experienced is all of us, is that we are creating new connections that are going beyond the space and the time. So for me, what was really a turning point in my vision and in my way of perceiving the art and the opera as a theater one in our case, it's really this shift from another way of perceiving that. In this kind of pioneering area, I met another relevant experience that is again connected with the audience development, because we are kind of speaking about that practice in this space and connected with this keyword. And we go in completely in another part of the world. Johan was speaking about investment. In some country, and Italy is, we can say, one of these countries, we don't have that much money to invest. The story of Johan, for me, it was kind of a fairy tale, because we don't have the, I mean, even if we think, okay, if I have fear, let's invest there, we normally invest on survival. So it's another kind of, but if we put together survival or a situation in which the resources to support theater and culture are not that high, that is not of course I'm not judging anything. I mean, when we touch this topic, it's always delicate, but we have different situations in different countries. So going in another country that has a completely different situation, I was really inspired from an adventure, and I will say, that happened in South Africa with the PJ Sabaga. I hope I pronounced your name in the right way. That is managing and artistic director of the Forgotten Angle Theatre Collaborative, that has the idea of creating a WhatsApp festival to reach an audience that is normally in a cultural poverty situation, and to support a situation that was without, I mean, the teenagers or the youngsters that were frequenting Popo Gitarai, maybe they have a laptop or a WhatsApp or an iPad or things like that, like this guy. In this case, it's not the case. So I will stop myself. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you very much, Christina. Hi, everybody. Very good to be with you. Yes, Sabaha, you almost had it. I'm going to do a screen share, so I've taken a different route to try and give you some visual representation. Can you all see my screen? Are you seeing the screen? All right, great. So our festival is called My Body, My Space, Public Arts Festival. I'm going to go really fast, and I'm sorry if that's a language issue. The festival is a project of the Forgotten Angle Theatre Collaborative, and FATSI is a contemporary dance-focused organization that has been working in South Africa for the past 26 years, dedicated to issue-based work, arts activism, but really focused on collaborative and participant-centered methodologies. In 2015, we relocated to rural Mpumalanga, Emakazeni, which is near Mozambique. And it became very clear in our relocation in the place where we were working that there are deep systemic and structural inequalities that confront rural citizens, and particularly young people in rural spaces. And kind of clear indicators of that are the very low levels of school completion. So secondary school in our local municipality, less than 20% of the population has completed schooling. The unemployment rate across all ages is 34%, and pre-COVID, so pre-pandemic, youth unemployment was at 89%. So the issues are really vast and quite stark. This phrase I wanted to keep in, this is an image from one of our festivals, one of our My Body, My Space on the ground. And this phrase we developed because people build communities, communities build societies, and societies build economies, is at the heart of the work that we do. So pre-pandemic, My Body, My Space is a festival of cutting-edge performances, installations, exhibitions that unfold in all kinds of spaces. On a farm, in a cattle kraal, on streets, by young artists, by established artists. We attracted about 600 to 800 people a day, mostly rural youth and children, and some international and national visitors. And everybody really moved in community, walked the streets of the little town together to view the work. We were really kind of focused and prioritized the idea of democratizing the performance space. So
Hello? Are you there?
I think we lost him.
Yes.
Yeah, but it looks like he's there. Let me check. No, we lost him.
I don't see him, Christina.
No. Okay.
Can you send him a mail so that he can reconnect, maybe?
I think he.
Here he is.
Hello.
Okay.
Hello. Sorry about that. This is one of the don't panic. This is the reality of rural South Africa. Is unstable internet connection, and so part of the reality that we have to confront. This is a beautiful quote that speaks to the kind of festival and the way it was. So it says, "It is often understood that life only happens in big cities, outside of which the world is stagnant and empty. By propelling us into the encounters of apparently barren spaces, My Body, My Space challenged assumptions about where life and art and politics happen." So this gives you a sense of who we are and where we sit. And then this beautiful creature arrived, 2020. And so we were deeply concerned about what COVID-19 was doing, the respective lockdowns were doing in terms of the just kind of disproportionately exaggerating inequalities, disadvantage, and particularly issues around the digital divide. So we began to think about how do we create a festival that remains inclusive, that remains free, that is somehow online, and that is public, that sustains the public arts ethos. And so we began this deep process of kind of research and reflection. When we heard we had some money, and not a lot, a little bit, but we had to research, plan, and implement simultaneously. So we didn't have the luxury of doing the research and then planning and then implementing. We had to do it all simultaneously. And we gathered around us a group of amazing stakeholders, international agencies, team of critical thinkers. We consulted many festivals. And so there were many months of many, many meetings to try and understand what we were doing. What we arrived at and what we were clear on is that we needed to retain the idea of rural and local, that inclusivity and access was critical to our work. The idea of stitching and reconnecting different kinds of communities was important. We wanted to think about how we disrupt the familiar ways people inhabit spaces, and we wanted to place critical contemporary issues at the foreground. Very important to us was that we ensured that we left no one behind. We didn't want to leave any community behind. And so in this very early stage, we put out a call to artists and with a kind of curatorial focus, thinking about, we want you to think about celebrating your bodies and spaces, thinking about how do we reconnect and restitch communities, and how do we feel our humanity, and how do we interrogate issues around human rights against the backdrop of COVID-19. At a building level, so at a structure construction level, there were key considerations for us. We wanted to somehow retain the public arts ethos. We needed to retain the sensation of movement, of travel, of journey, of intimacy, of community. And democratizing, again, became a really important concern for us, democratizing the digital space. So we didn't want COVID to result in further exclusions in terms of our festival, access and inclusion. And we began to think about bite-sized, really short format work that people could engage with. Through our kind of research process and engaging with various festivals, there were other insights that were really informative. So internet access, the National Arts Festival, which is one of our country's biggest festivals, observed that 60% of their audience was engaging via mobile devices. We noted through our local research of our municipality that 91% of the population who does participate on the internet does so on their mobile, on their smartphones. Wi-Fi and data in South Africa is a huge issue. So majority of people are engaging using cellular data. We don't have fixed lines unless you're in a city. And a gig of data can cost up to 100 Rand, which is about 5.5 euro for 1 gig of data. So engaging digitally is really expensive. We have poor bandwidth, as you just experienced, and extremely unstable power supply. So we can have load shedding. Another interesting insight that we gained from the National Arts Festival is the idea of creating production centers, production hubs to generate the content, created high moments or high risk transmission moments that we needed to try and avoid. And of course, you know, towards September last year, digital fatigue was a big issue. Everybody was tired of Zoom, tired of being on social media. And so we needed to think about duration, how, where, and when content was accessed. To speak to the digital fatigue issue. And so we arrived at the proposition that said our festival needs to be where people are. Our festival needs to be part of your everyday life. And we want a program and artwork that imprints on your everyday life. It needs to be both ephemeral and residual. It needs to be on your phone. It needs to be free, and it needs to use as little data as possible. How do we do all of this? So after many months of conversations and the challenge was set, we were fortuitous in that we were in a meeting and someone said, hey, I work with this organization called Turn.io. Turn is a cloud-based service provider to which we now subscribe that uses WhatsApp Business and chatbot artificial intelligence to create chat services at scale for social impact. So if you think of the World Health Organization, many Department of Healths are using this exact service to create chat around COVID-19. We're the first arts case globally to make use of the service. And it's really simple. You simply send the word hi to a number, WhatsApp, and you enter the system. But along with that came some new challenges. So the limitation, and we've been reflecting on transformation and transitions quite a bit, was that nothing can be bigger than 16 megabytes. So no data you share can be bigger than 16 megabytes. What we observed from many of the artists, particularly the young artists and even the established ones, was people were not being able to transition into the digital space. So they were simply thinking about filming a stage performance. So we partnered with a team of low-def film creators, content creators, to run a 6-week mentorship training program via WhatsApp for all the young artists, to teach them how to generate, how to storyboard, how to film on their phones, edit with free software, and so this is how we arrived at this kind of driving of the low-def format. As a team. Because the service, the platform ate all our budget, we had to learn really quickly as a bunch of dancers and choreographers and academics how to build platforms. So we learned really fast. We engaged artists in a kind of artist-centered curatorial process. So we wanted artists to help determine where they sat on the map and how an audience would arrive at their work. And then Christina asked me to reflect a little bit on audiences. So, I mean, at the moment, we have 3,500 active users, so which is really great for us. We've gone up from 600 audience members to 3,500. 65,000 messages have been sent through the system. Our biggest audience, as you can see, 60% is youth and 14% is under 18, so it's a young audience. 38% of our audience has never attended a festival before, not even in the real world. So that was a really exciting discovery. And 80% of the audience are feeling more connected to other people than they were before. Here's a little reflection on reach, and you can see Italy is climbing up. And I think that's thanks to this, this moment. So we get a real immediate sense of data of what is happening with our users. In terms of engagement, our audience is telling us that it's really easy and simple to engage with. So that speaks to the access issue, which really satisfies us. We also are rewarded by the statistic that most people are engaging in their normal days, in between their regular activities. So they're not having to take time out of their lives to participate. They participate during their day, which is really exciting. But then there were some other interesting observations. Because we can engage through back-end conversation, so we can observe all the chats, we can see how impatient people are. We can see that young people particularly don't like reading. They're looking for instant access. Predictive text, because it's via WhatsApp. So if you use sending a message and you send the wrong message with predictive text, the system doesn't know what's going on. So it's really, we also have to engage in a process of coaching users, so of coaching audience festival goers as to how to engage with the festival. And then finally, I thought I would end with some little quotes from audience members. So this one is: the freedom to choose what you want to watch. The short form, you can literally take a quick time out at any point to get some inspiration to be moved. On-demand, bite-sized art is the future. And this one, finding unexpected gems, being able to stop something I wasn't enjoying and find something, being able to watch a short work when I had a few minutes to spare. And I'm going to end there. Thank you.
Thank you. So you see, we went in another dimension, in another part of the world, and it's interesting because you were using some words that are kind of the other sides of the coin of what Wouter was speaking about, because he was speaking about the silence, the slowness, and here we are quick, fast, we try to reach. So it's really opening the word and the idea, and I hope that it can also open our inspiration. I have the feeling that there should be some questions, also practical questions about what we have been listening from our guest. So if you want, just or unmute yourself or just raise your hand or use the reaction button. If not, we can go 4 questions that I have in my notebook, but I can see you all together. Is everything, I mean, nothing more that you want to know? Okay, Pierre.
It's not a question, but a comment. There's a key word that I think John has mentioned is fear. And it really is an obstacle for that development here in Canada. We have a very large spectrum of people that are not fear, who don't fear at all, but a very large majority of people that fear to move in that direction, move in that world, sometimes by lack of expertise and knowledge, but also of not understanding what it will bring to them. But I want only to mention that keyword of fear is really, in French we say a frein. It really stops a lot of people to move more quickly in that digital world or activities.
Yeah, thank you, Pierre. Birute.
Yes, thank you. I also have kind of question, which is more like a comment. The first one that I just recently realized that while talking with people on Zoom, I still lean towards the, computer. So like still feeling that there is a need, to come closer, to find this kind of physical thing. So it's like even that you understand that you cannot get through. And the other was probably also like a question, or always my thing that urgent to think all the time, because I am a choreographer and I produce performances. I make performances for babies, mostly from 0 to 2 years. So in this whole situation of digitalizing theater, and I was thinking, when we talk about children and their participation in all the virtual theater, what age we talk. And that was also about what Johan was saying, and I really understand, and it's inspiring all these, examples, but still I'm thinking about the age of audience. Do we really think, when we can start doing this? And also maybe about audience which we used to call like inclusive, like with children with disabilities, disorders, developmental, mental, where the, I don't know whether they are, is it reasonable, or is it, how to say, worth to put them, in front of those, screens. So this is what I am researching at the moment, and I was interested if Johan or anyone else have this like age and this inclusivity aspect solved with the digitalizing of theater. Thank you.
Johan, are you going to answer?
I would love to answer for a moment. You have 2 interesting questions you mentioned. First of all is, I was triggered by saying, when you were saying I'm a choreographer, and there's a very nice performance now of Hugo de Haas called Forced Labor. And he is one of the bigger choreographers in Belgium. And he created, for example, now he's busy with creating a performance where he said, when I was a young boy, I wanted to make once a performance with, even when he was a young boy, a young boy. He said, like, I wanted to become maybe together with a robot something, and he was afraid. He didn't know what to do. He was examined last year if artificial intelligence is replacing a lot of jobs, which is the last job who will be put away, and it was choreographer. 4% of everyone is thinking a choreographer will remain till the end. And he didn't believe this because he has a big love for robots. So he started to build his own robot, and he made now a performance. I will show you maybe a little clip. It takes 1 minute to give an idea of this part, that even in the most physical experience of the most dedicated people only busy with the bodies, there is a huge tendency of finding a relation with what's happening now. This is part one. The second part, we did a project with disabled children where they create their own world and their own world of dancing, moving, reflecting by drawing on iPads. And by projecting on the drawings on the iPad, on the screen and on the stage, they could jump from their own drawing to the other drawing and make their own dance. And it was very physical, even though we were using a technology. If you like, I can show you, it's like a 2-minute clip of the Festival Digitale in a way, which gives the two examples. I don't know if we have time for this, Christina, otherwise I can show and share this.
If it's 2 minutes, maybe we are curious. It's a concrete answer to the question.
My drive somehow, wait, I think it takes 1 minute. Connect. You just have to say if you see something. Normally you should. It's exactly 2 minutes.
Welkom op de eerste avond van de tweede avond van de derde avond van Festival Digitale.
No.
Zwarte gaten begrijpen.
That's a pity. Wait.
While you look for this, I will tell everybody that in the chat you can find the WhatsApp number of the WhatsApp Festival. It's enough to join My Body Space Festival. You can send a hi, really this word, to this number that you find in the chat. And also we will put all the information in the chat about all the colleagues that have been speaking. And while Johan is looking for this video, I will just briefly give the floor 2 minutes to Kliodna, that has the experience of youngsters and also in digital, because she finished recently a digital festival for youngsters. So Kliodna, if you have something to tell us, kind of answering to question of Birute also, if you want, feel free.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I mean, I'm terrified of this conversation actually, because it's very polarized. You know, there are people who feel very strongly that it shouldn't happen, and there are people who feel very strongly that something needs to happen. So I would be that kind of person, just to set that straight. So I'm not trying to convert anybody to anything. It's my way, and I'm not afraid. I never have fear of presenting anything actually. And I've never been in the center of anything either. So I'm like a lone shark. And so when COVID happened and I had funding to run a festival for 0 to 3-year-olds and 3 to 6-year-olds, I just sat with my committee and my artists and asked them, you know, how do you feel? And all of them were willing to try going online. What we didn't do was record ourselves and then sell the performances. It was a tiny program, and it was very intimate, and it was really engaging, and that was the word engagement was on my top priority list for our audience. So we had in the morning, it was like more like a workshop festival, but there was performance in the workshops. So the work was created for the festival. It had never been done before. and it came actually out of Labas Festival in Lithuania in September. And it was very interesting. I don't know how much Birute knows about, but we actually, in both cases, in Grasshoppers and in Labas Festival, we were approached by schools of children with special needs. We never said that we were inclusive or that this was anything. And I don't differentiate, and I will never say no to an audience. So I didn't have to think about why or not to have an audience there. We were delighted. And I would never consider it my place to choose whether they should be there or not. If they want to watch, how, you know, why not is my my attitude. So both with babies, and I can tell you, mothers at home with small babies who were born in the pandemic were so grateful for these live interactions with international artists with foreign accents when they couldn't go on holidays. You know, it was so emotional actually, and it was very touching in both cases. And in Lithuania, we worked with an amazing school in Kiele, and they have the building is Swedish built, I think, and they have children with very severe special needs and disabilities. And those children followed a storytelling from an Irish artist who was locked in her bedroom, and they had to get her out. And she kept coming back and asking them for, you know, what can you see the key? How do I get out? And even though she wasn't speaking Lithuanian and she was addressing an audience that had, you know, huge difficulties in their physical and intellectual ability, it was magic. It was great. So I've been very lucky to have amazing positive experiences. And I mean, it's not my choice to continue to do digital, but it was what we had to do this year, and it worked. And I think there are two maybe things: is know your audience if you can, and also know your artists or who you're working with. And that conversation is really important, because it's not every artist who can deliver what you want online, and you have to look after them as a festival, because you don't get the feedback that you need as an artist. So somebody has to be there to say, I took photos, I took the video, look at this. This was magic, just after the workshop or the performance. And that made a huge difference as well. So that's our experience. Thank you for giving me the floor. I'm happy to talk to anybody about, you know, what we learned, how we learned. Some things I might keep in the future as suggestions, and I am loving the WhatsApp idea, because the community we should be working in is very much a disadvantaged community, and it has a lot of problems with integration at the moment. So this could be something that we can use in our programming also. So I'm very grateful to have access to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Kilna, and thank you for bringing on the floor a few words. I mean, no one. I think that no one is giving answers or thinking to have the truth in here. We're just trying to make connection, open up minds, and have inspiration. So, but the word is grateful. This is one of the words that I think that all of us who have experienced this new space or other solution, and that have found the way to make it function, to make it work, even if there was not the possibility of making the festival, the performance as before, we collected grateful from our audience, children, parents, a lot of this feeling of being grateful from our audience. The interaction, how to guarantee this interaction also, this is something that we have been working and struggling on, and we are still struggling on it. And another keyword for me is surprise. I think that we have been surprised from what we can do, what the audience can do, what the artists can do, and this is really one of the important feeling that I think we can share. there is one thing that I need to underline, because when I listen to the story that Sabara told me about the WhatsApp festival, the thing that for me was making sparkling in my brain was the fact that this methodology, this technique, this method of the WhatsApp is the same that is used from the emergency health situation, and this emergency that is a sanitary emergency is at the same level, is the same tool of the cultural emergency, because we also in Italy, for example, we have a lot of problem with that. But we are perfectly on time to fly to Australia, where we have Sarah and I'm afraid to pronounce your name. You will that are with us. Tali, okay, that get awake early in the morning with and that have been again exploring a new dimension with Mountain God Mountain. That is another way to connect to the audience, a small audience in the sense of young one, and activating the participation. That is another keyword of this period, I would say.
Thank you so much, Christina. Thank you for having us. And yes, it's very early in the morning here, so please excuse us if our sentences don't quite finish or we trail off. We will be reading a script because we didn't quite trust ourselves to remember everything. I'm just going to share my screen. Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Normally now you can.
Thank you. There we go. We'd just like to begin by acknowledging that we're sitting here today, this morning, on the land of the Toongaroong people of the Kulin Nation, the people of central Victoria where we live. And they've been caring for this land through songlines, storytelling and ceremony for over 2,000 generations. And we pay our respects to elders past and present.
So I'm Tali Corinne and I use she, her pronouns.
And I'm Sarah Lockwood and I use she, her pronouns.
And we are both theatre makers who studied acting and then have moved through all of those processes, I guess, over the last 20 years. And 18 months ago, we launched our company Threshold. So as newish parents now, it really came out of discussions that we both had. We both live in a small town together, about how there weren't a lot of contemporary or secular rituals to mark significant milestones that we were experiencing quite frequently as parents. And we founded Threshold to investigate how elements of theatrical storytelling or theatre making and ritual can connect people. So we're interested in, how theatre can connect people in their homes.
We both live in this little town called Kyneton in regional Victoria. There's about 6,000 people who live here, and our core collaborators also live in this town, and many of us have children, so access to the theatre isn't always very straightforward. An important part of Threshold, therefore, is access. We're always asking, how can we bring the things that theatre does so well, the wonder and delight and the moments of shared experience, the deeper conversations about ourselves and the world into people's homes and communities? We were asking these questions, as Tali said, even before the pandemic.
So I guess as all of this thinking was happening, we came across this report, which reminded us about why people go to the galleries and the theatre. And as you can see, overwhelmingly, it's about connection, to be together. So spending time with friends and family is over twice as important as the content of the performance or exhibition itself. So this report really just confirmed the hunch that we were circling around and committed our commitment to connection and theatre as a point of connection.
Yeah, so this report showed that really the best thing that we can do is connect people to each other. So our question as theatre makers is, how do we amplify that possibility of connection, and what makes a space invitational? What permissions or invitations do people need to connect to each other? And then particularly during the pandemic, how does that work in the home?
And COVID obviously really accelerated the need to find an answer to some of these questions, with the challenges of isolation and the different layers of anxiety and exhaustion that everyone were feeling. As parents ourselves, we were really aware of a tension during our lockdowns, that we were spending more time together as a family than ever before, but without any sense of occasion or any end point, and each day blending into the next day. And so we wanted to start by creating something that would enrich our time together as a family in new ways.
So in April last year, a month into Australia's first full lockdown, we created Mountain Goat Mountain. And that was with the assistance of 4 arts organisations in Australia, Dream Big, Art Centre Melbourne, Home for the Arts in the Gold Coast, and Awesome Festival in Western Australia. And I'll just try and share a little clip from that now. And let me know if you can't see, if you can't hear it.
Mountain Goat Mountain is a magical place. Happy travels, adventurers.
So Mountain Goat Mountain is an audio-led theatre work that invites families to set up and then step into a world that they've created themselves in their own homes. It's accompanied...
Okay, it's taken me a while to get organised this morning. That's for this one, is it? Private call. We keep on getting private callers now. Mitchell's well. Father came here in 1952. Originally comes from a place called Harry's Watch. That's where he was born. And when he first came here, he went to London to live. Stayed there for 6 months. Didn't like it.
Sorry.
Before my dad left the shop,
I thought someone was getting milk delivered.
Used to get on the van and go.
I've got too many screens. Something on your computer. Getting in.
Oh, that
Okay.
is us.
No, it's fine.
Okay,
great. Okay.
advertising another colleague, but it's fine.
So Mountain Goat Mountain is an audio-led theatre experience for families to do together in their home together. So yeah, families set up and then step into their own imaginative world, and it provides space for creative connection through play and imagination. And I guess one of the things, just picking up on the conversation that we heard before, was around it's an audio work, so it's not quite screen free, but it's not quite you don't watch it.
Yeah.
If I understood well, you have the instruction on the screen and then you listen.
That's right. Yeah.
Just to explain the others that maybe didn't have the opportunity.
Yeah, and you listen sometimes for 5 minutes, and then in the second act you listen for 30 minutes. So the first act is smaller sections of audio, and then the second act is like an act, a good amount of time in itself.
Yeah, and when we started the creative process, we weren't quite sure what form it was going to take, if it was going to be a set of cards or an audio work. But we started the creative development with the points of connection. So thinking about how we could bring families together, and as our desire for a sense of expansion within the home and connection with nature and each other during this time of confinement. So we were very lucky that we already had the incredible, extraordinary composer Zoe Barry in the creative team, who created the immersive sonic world for this work. And the audio revealed itself to be quite radical in the way that it democratized the experience for the family. Everyone involved in the experience, regardless of age, can lead it. No one has to read from the screen. They don't have to gather around the screen. There's no crowding to see who can get the best view around the screen as a family, that everyone can hear it at the same time. So the flattening of that traditional family hierarchy was something we wanted to encourage. Therefore, we also invited the brilliant 8-year-old Henrietta Mettler to voice Act 1 of the experience, and having a child's voice lead the action in the first half really empowers the young people to engage in a different way, and that's the feedback from families. It invites adults to enter the world of play.
And it was just as important to us that the visual invitation was as beautiful and calming as the sonic one. And so we worked with 2 visual artists, Nikita Hedricks and Liz Francis, who created a totally unique collaged web design that audiences have commented that they can swim into. So they were able to bring the immersive nature of their installation work to the web design, wrapping around the audience.
So as theatre makers, we're accustomed to shaping every element of a production usually. And as performers, we're used to holding a space. But in this instance, we're really collaborating with families in a completely new way. And yeah, we had to trust that our framework could hold them safely, and also that it could create moments of wonder that we would never see. We've had people telling us for some time that we should create a digital experience, but as theatre makers, we weren't confident that what we loved about the theatre would translate. So this goes to some of what you were saying before too. It quite literally took the pandemic for us to put skepticism aside and use the medium rather than shy away from it.
And the rewards of leaning into that have, been quite extraordinary, as so many of you, I'm sure, have experienced. So not only has the feedback that we've heard from families confirmed that our trust in them as collaborators works and is fruitful, but I mean, these are just some of the beautiful mountain creatures that have been sent to us from lots of places across the world that really celebrate how creative and individual and unique every single family is. So these families create these as one of the first steps in Act 1, and then they play quite a pivotal role in the narrative arc of Act 2.
So we made Mountain Goat Mountain within the first 6 weeks of full lockdown here in Victoria. And within those first few weeks, the whole world was changing at a rapid pace. And for many people, the priorities became crystal clear. And the value and importance of those in our immediate surroundings was something that we wanted to acknowledge in the piece. And the key line in the piece is the phrase, "Everything you need is here," which is repeated throughout the work. And it felt like something that we needed to hear. And we also heard from families that they needed to be carried along at this time, that they needed to be held, that parents as well needed to be held. They didn't want to be activating all the play themselves. As we tested the work in its first iteration and early development, we heard the relief from parents who were responsible for everything in their child's life, for remote learning, for entertaining, for being the whole village, that they were very relieved that Mountain Goat Mountain provided space for them to be together, but they didn't need to be responsible for creating that space, that they could be held together.
This is just a short piece of feedback that we've received that is indicative of so much of the feedback we've got from families and parents. I loved the opportunity to perform with my family and the legacy of the performance in our daily lives. It sparked so much imagination and inquiry from my 5-year-old and the conversations which have continued. It's a really lovely thing when you have your intentions spoken back to you like that. We know so much how people need ritual at the moment, and as theatre makers, that's something that we can do in this moment. And in Mountain Goat Mountain, those rituals have taken the form of family codes that they develop through the work, and then they can check in with each other within that time. And we've heard that they're often using them outside of that time now as well.
So a year now into lockdown, and we have heard that there's a different need, and that is hope. Our follow-up work, Feather Quest, responds to that need. We've all experienced a lot of screen fatigue, as we've heard in this meeting today. So we set out with Feather Quest to create something more analogue, more tactile, and this work begins with an envelope arriving from a bird. It contains a feather and an urgent request for help from the bird. And the family then carry out a quest together to rescue the bird, and along the way engage in collaborative playmaking and unlock a poetic message of hope.
So both of these works are quite new in their form. They use elements of theatre to connect people, and we're collaborating with families in new ways. You know, we believe that theatre isn't just a venue, it's a shared experience, and that storytelling connects us to each other. So we're learning about how to talk about our work, not only about what it is, but what it does, and that's the moment of connection.
So in this year, 2021, we're developing an adaptation of RAIN, which is a digital theatre experience for babies and their carers. And we're also translating Mountain Goat Mountain and Feather Quest into Mandarin. And we're very open to discussions about further translations of the work.
So we encourage you to get in touch. We're very happy to set anyone up with a complimentary pass to experience Mountain Goat Mountain. And yeah, that's our email. So drop us a line, and we look forward to starting the conversation.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. So we went really in another world. That is not only the country, but the approach, even if the connection and the relation with the audience is always there, even if in a different way, with this also small age. We have, I will say 11 minutes more, but I don't know if there is anyone that has other questions or comments or things that you want to share. And we still have the video from Johan to see if we want. Maybe Johan, if you want, you can put the video and we reflect on final comment that any one of us wants to share, knowing that this was really not a list of practices we have chosen for any reason, but just a kind of inspiring approaches, hoping to help all of us to better face this complexity and this period.
Christina, I just deleted my own video. I hate it.
No!
I hate the digital world. At least I can't project it now. Welcome in the digital world.
Fantastic, fantastic. This is okay. This was a gag. We wrote that text. Of course, it's a kind of ironic final.
It's Flemish irony. No, but I will send the links to all of you. I will send the links with the Festival Digital and the projects and the recommendations of NICE to Christina, and Christina maybe can share it to everyone. But I will take the opportunity though to reflect just one more little minute. There's so many options to go very analog in the digitalization. I just give one example. We're going to create this season a very analog performance, which has nothing to do. There will not be a screen on stage. It will be live in theater, but everything will be in mind completely digital. So it's an algorithm used by a lot of digital things like Facebook, blah, 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 Google, and the actors' performers are working with like scientists behind Google, behind Facebook, behind this to create, how can you make a connection with someone who has a certain taste and make a certain choice to do something. So it will be a live experience with children, and each performance will be created by the children through the algorithmical system used by all those firms using this whole virtual thing. So I just want to, just to open a bit the minds that we get away also about when we come to the content of this conversation, that it's not about screens. I also relate a little bit to Sarah and Tahiju of what they shared about their experience. So it's more like there are some doors that are opened, and it's not about, in fact, in the end, it's not about technology, it's not about etc., etc. It's about a new life, which is like more participative, more inclusive, that gives a lot of possibilities to a more diverse participation of so many generations. Voila, this was not a little video clip, this will be standard, but I just took my opportunity of this last minute to share.
Johan, this was, this was better than the video, the final speech that you shared. That was the kind of a general sense of what, it's really in the mood of what we have been trying to do with this tool and methods of digital approach. It's really the synthesis, the sense, the deep sense is not about something screen, podcast or whatever, but it's really about opening our mind and living in kind of another world. This is this space that COVID opened these doors for us, but I really feel that is a kind of new journey. But I will not add any more word because it's time to go. There is a help in Cleodna's screen. Is there anyone that wants to share something? Otherwise, I will give the floor to our chairman, the president of ASSITEJ Italia, to say you ciao and so on. So feel free. Okay, I will just add one thing. We have a Slack space that I asked my colleague if they want to put it in the chat. It's an Italian Slack space about digital and everything. I mean, the keywords, the starting point was digital, but it's not only about that, where we share digital practices or information that we are collecting or meeting in our life at the moment. But maybe you are interested in joining us in this Slack channel. So just drop your email in the notes and we will add you to the Slack channel. Thank you to all the guests that have been joining us and awaking so early in the morning. Linda.
Thank you. Okay, thank you everybody. Thank you for joining us today, this afternoon. I want to tell you that our research will continue. There are other national and international paths starting soon. So first of all, we invite you to follow the panel discussion on innovative TYA responses to COVID. This is the right title, in the frame of the ASSITEJ World Congress. We share the web link in chat. Okay, the program of the ASSITEJ World Congress is very interesting and rich. As you know, Christina is the Italian candidate to the next EC International. So good luck, Christina. And I conclude by saying, let's keep in touch, stay tuned, and be ready for the next adventures. Thank you very much. Have a nice night. Goodbye.
Ciao. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you for hosting.
Thank you. Ciao.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.